So these two pieces are going to be rabbited out equally on both sides, and they're going to fit around the end of our sword here to provide the handguard. So that's what they're going to be like. But when we're done, we're going to have a rectangular shape, which will be the width of this sword base here. Finding the center of our handguard first, that we can work off of it. Remember, it's 200 millimeters, which is 100 millimeter center. In the imperial, the language of the king, 3 and 15/16 is our center mark. Let's mark that first. There's our center. So we don't get confused, let's make it a little C, which stands for center, so we don't go and off-cut. Now while we're down here, let's get the measurement for the width of this particular part of the sword, which in metric looks to be about 62 millimeters, and imperial looks to be about 2 and 7/16. So in metric, which is what I'm going to use to get my initial mark, 62 becomes 31 millimeters either side of my center line. So, and then I'll give you an imperial measurement. So there's 31. Really, metric is quite easy. And then we'll go up here. My tape's dirty though, because it's my standby tape for work. And we'll mark 62. That looks like the 2 right there. And it can be slightly bigger. In fact, I'm probably going to cut it slightly bigger because then it will fit easier. I'm not looking for a friction fit. Friction fit would be something that is just that, a lot of friction, because it's so tight you probably wouldn't even need any glue. Okay, there's our boundaries, north and south, and now we want to know what this depth is going to be. So that's as far as our notch or our rabbit's going to go. Now we're going to find the number for this way, which is, I can just use one of these pieces because it all comes from the same stock. Looks like 19 mil. 19 mil. We'll center this here, and we're going to go 10 and 10. Well, we're actually going to go just shy of 10. We'll call it that right there. And just shy of 10 mils this way. So that's 10 mils and 10 mils. And for 3/4, if you're using 3/4 material, there's your 3/4. It's going to be 3/8 and 3/8. So let's go down here and mark this one as well. Again, if this is slightly bigger, it's not going to be a big deal. The earth will not implode. Too freaked out if it's not perfect. Because this sword is certainly not going to be perfect. I guarantee it. It already isn't. Look, my line's totally off. Not going to worry about it. Not going to worry about it. And then I'm going to flip this around and do the same thing on this side. Not because I need to, but just because I want to have a frame of reference for the next part that's coming up. And you'll see why. Okay, moving on to our next step. So this section right in here, we're going to mark with some squigglies. And we're doing that because sometimes I forget to pay attention and I end up cutting the wrong side of the line or taking the wrong stuff out. So I make some squigglies. So we know that this stock right here is coming out. So we have the box drawn out here, the rectangle. We have this partial box drawn out there, and we'll see why in a moment. Now we want to transfer, we're going to take this clamp off, and we want to transfer this line and this line to the faces of each piece so that we can basically lay it down and cut it and go from there. So we have our lines. We're going to transfer them this way and this way. Look at the size of his head. It's like Sputnik. And this line. Okay, and then this guy, same thing. There's our squigglies, same thing, same side as the squigglies. We're going to transfer those over. Okay, so this material coming out, that material coming out. We know that this line right here is what we want to go to. This line is where we want to go to. And this is what I want to get rid of. All right, so while we're close, this is what we're going to do. And this is probably the most difficult part of this whole thing. Difficult, not impossible, and certainly within the realms of doability, even if you're a first timer. So what we want to do is take our saw, which is being represented by this HB pencil from Paper Mate. And we're going to take this saw and we're going to cut our outside line. And we're only going to cut it down to this line because that's as deep as we want to go, and this line. And then we're going to spin it around and we're going to cut this line. Same thing to that depth and that depth. And then we're going to go along, and every, say, 1/8 of an inch, you can go closer if you want, that's fine. You can go every 1/16 of an inch. You can go every 2 mil of an inch. Anyways, this is what we're doing. Cutting little slots all the way through, down to this point. And what that's going to allow us to do is when we're finished cutting, you can come along and you can probably use your finger. You can just bend them, and they're all going to break. And that's going to leave us a little bit of a jaggedy edge down here, which we're going to clean up with a chisel and make all nice and pretty like. So let's clamp this thing down. So if you have asked your parents for some tools and they've got them for you, let me know down below, because I would be interested to see what your parents' reaction was when you said, I'd like some Bessie clamps and a handsaw. And let's get started getting our outside cuts, and then we'll get our inside from there. Okay. So this piece is a smaller piece of wood. We don't have to go crazy cutting it. So let's just take our time. It's the outside one that we kind of have to just, chill out. So while we're cutting this, we want to make sure that we're not too far this way. We want to make sure we're not too far this way. We're going to keep our saw as level. Actually, it's not this, because that's angled. We're going to be looking at our teeth, and we want to make sure that they're not canted one way or the other. Try to keep it as level as possible. One indication when you start is the actual cut in the wood. You can see I'm heavier here and I'm shallower there. So right off the bat, I can lift my saw up a little bit so that it's biting at the back. And trust me, it takes a little bit of patience, a little bit of practice. So again, if we don't go, see, I'm already off my line. You can see that I'm off it by a bit. I'm not losing any sleep over that tonight, I can promise you that. Consider these projects to be like practice projects, training projects. So I'm down to my line. In fact, I'm a little bit past it. Not a big deal. And I'm going to look at the back. I think the back's good. So I'm going to cut my second one here. A little bit more. Okay, so our 2 marks have been reached. That one's a little bit further past, doesn't matter. Now we're just going to get rid of this portion. This portion, it doesn't matter how you start, it can jump all over the place, doesn't matter. The idea is that you're trying to take material out with your blade rather than having to come up here and chisel all that out as one unit. And also because we can go down to our depth, it'll make chiseling it out easy, because it'll just basically be a cleanup rather than having to be concerned about how far we're going. Yes? Good. Let's go. I'm going to look at my line on the front. I'm not going to worry about the back one. So you can see I've got rather large, that's like 3/16. You can go back, or you could have gone even tighter to each other. I was just kind of going fast, but I'll cut one in half here to kind of give you an idea what I was originally talking about. Of course, that's going to be harder than if I'd just done it the first time. So you can see that you've got, if you'd gone through with each one of these and cut them down, you can literally come by with a screwdriver. Bam, it's done. These guys will probably pop too, just because of the way the grain is, but it's up to you. That one's kind of chunked out a bit at the bottom. Doesn't matter, it's just going to get filled up with glue. I'm going to go grab my chisel right now, and we'll just chisel this out while it's clamped up. Chisels, just a quick little tip here for you. You don't have to spend a lot of money on chisels for what we're doing, all right? I've got like my Marple set, which is like a intermediate sort of priced chisel, one of my finer ones, and then I've got bigger ones from here. And there's my old work chisel, which I've used for everything from wood to concrete, because that's why it's so dull. And then I've got my Husky brand chisel, which I just use for little things like what we're doing today. So the difference between the Marples and the Husky is the Marples is more of a fine finishing chisel. This is more of a multi-purpose chisel. And one of the differences they have is the Husky has its tang kind of goes through the handle and then up through the top. So it's designed to be hit with a normal hammer. You can, with that. The Marples does not have that, and it's designed to be hit with one of these guys. And the wood is more forgiving on the end. If you don't have a wood one, I use a regular hammer on them too. I just don't beat on them. So you can still tap, tap, tap. This thing is not going to self-destruct, but that's just one of the things you should be aware of when you're dealing with chisels. So for now, we're going to use the Husky, and we're going to use the old framing hammer just to do what we need to do, which is clear out this wood. Another option before we get into the full-on chisel is you can use your file. So if you want to use your file to run this down, no problem. Feel free to do that. It will work. But we've used a lot of files, and we want to expose you to something new. So when using your chisel, we want to be going against, so the grain's running this way, it's going to be much easier and cleaner to go this way. And when you're using your chisel, you'll notice it has a profile, which is one grind going this way. We don't want to be chiseling this way. You're thinking, oh, that's the way you do it, but you actually want to be going this way, so it avoids just grabbing onto the grain and driving it into the wood. We want to kind of skim along the top and take off whatever we need to. So I'm not even using my hammer right now. I'm just using my hand. And you can take those high points off, and they come off pretty easily. And then we're going to transition over to the hammer just to clean up the rest. And you can see when I push up like against that, you probably can't see that with the camera. I don't know how close you are, but that is a nice paper thin curl. When we're done, we need to be able to put a piece of 3/4 inch material in here and then put another on top of it, and it should clear quite easily. When you're doing this, put yourself in the position that you're most comfortable with. Don't try to put yourself in a left-handed position if you're a right-handed person, because you'll probably end up hurting yourself. So here we've got it. We've driven this piece right into our edge. I'm going to take my chisel with the angle that way now. Put us up against the top. Give it a little tap tap. Out it comes. So that's all we're going to do with the chisel for now. We've got the majority of the material out of there. We'll do the same with the second one, and then we're going to fine tune it with the file. Our two pieces are cut. We have our little rectangular piece where our sword is going to fit. So let's do a quick check now to see where we're at. Now this piece, it's a little snug, which is fine, but you can see that it's pretty decent. It fits pretty nicely. The second piece, it's a little loose, not a big deal, but you can see we don't have enough depth. And if you look on each piece, you can see I'm not even down to my line there, and I'm not down to my line here. So instead of spending the time with the chisel trying to get that, tweaked up, we're just going to use our old friend, the flat bastard, for tuning this up. So we've knocked this down a little bit with the farrier rasp and the fat bastard. You see we're past the line there, and we're just about down to the line here. And that's pretty decent. So we'll do the second one, and then we'll trial fit again. This thing just eats wood. It's like the great white of files. And then I'm tuning it up with the flat bastard. So let's see how this looks with our other one. So where are our happy faces? Happy face, and that makes, so happy faces were down. Happy faces there. Get on there. I think that's pretty decent. See, there's gaps around there. It's not perfect because we're not making a piano, we're making a wood sword. So I'm going to call that happy. We've got our hand guard cut. It is ready to roll. Now we are just going to glue this up, clamp it up, and then we are done for tonight. And then next week we will carry on with the finishing of the sword. So back to the bench. It's glue time. Don't be afraid to get your glue spilling out. It can all be sanded down after. We want to make sure that we do have enough glue on there, and especially in this portion right here, which is going to bond to the shaft of our sword. So get the glue in there, use your finger, spread it around, get it on the end grain. That glue is going to go in there, it's going to soak in, it's going to expand, and it's going to give you a nice bond, wood to wood. So when I'm doing stuff like this, I'm not afraid about glue squishing out. It's not a finished product. So I make sure I get it in there. In fact, maybe a little bit more in the center here and let it squish out. Of course, you want the bottom of the sword here to match up with the bottom of your hand guard. Yeah, the smiley face is actually right here and it's pointing back to me. And this one is the one that's a little bit snug, which is great. So we have glue on the wing here, so we don't have to glue this, but we do want to glue the inside. And our smiley face is here, going to be facing the right way when we get this glued up. And into the corners. Get in there. Smiley face again, facing us. And then we're going to just slip that on. So we want to clamp this up nice and tight. Like, you just have to pay attention depending on how tight your rabbit is. These, like for example, mine can twist that way, it can twist that way because this one's a little sloppy. The one on the bottom, a little bit tighter. You just have to be aware about that when you're doing this. And don't be surprised if it swishes around on you a little bit and moves, and that's all right. This stuff's not going off like crazy glue, so you got time. When you get your initial clamping done, you can just unclamp it if it's not in the exact right spot and reclamp it. So I can see right now already this top piece right here and the bottom piece. The top piece is, how can I do that? It's further out. This is sticking further out. So I'm just going to loosen that Bessie, slide it over a bit like that. And then make sure my bottom's good. 45 or 90 degrees to the sword. You can see the glue is squishing out already. And I am putting some serious clamping pressure. I think that's good. And we're gonna pretty this up once this is dried. If the edges are, like, I can feel a little bit of a lip on both sides. I'm not concerned about it. And this side, it's not bad. This side has a little bit of a lip. Again, I'm not worried about it because we have Mr. File. So let's just have a look. You see that the glue is gooping out of the bottom while it's wet. And now that we're done, if you have you can use a little knife. That's not a knife, that's a knife. Or a wet rag. Get her all off. It's gonna have to come off one way or the other because we are going to get to a point where we're going to be putting a finish on this sword to keep the rain and water and mud and anything else that might get on it from soaking into the wood. But as for now and tonight, we are clamped up and ready to roll. This is going to sit in the shop for, well, next time you see it, it'll be a week old. But this is probably good for what? I think it tacks up in the first hour. But is the time that you should have it clamped. And then I think it's 24 hours. 24 hours is a good way to go. Go have a drink, have something to eat. Next week, we'll probably just give us a little bit of a tune, sand her up, and then we're going to finish the blade, get it ready for stain it up, and we will be almost complete on this project. Hope you had fun tonight. Hope you learned something, and I hope that you'll actually try this. See you next week.